Today I'm going to show you how to make these fresh milled flour honey whole wheat rolls. These are absolutely delicious. Look how fluffy they are, look at the rise on them, and to make them even better is I use basic kitchen ingredients. Nothing added, nothing you're going to need to order, just real simple ingredients and a real simple recipe. Welcome y'all to Robin on the Farm. Today I'm sharing with you my classic fresh milled flour roll recipe. This is my classic recipe that I've been making for more than 20 years. I raised my kids on these rolls, and what I love about this recipe is that it calls for really simple ingredients that you probably already have in your kitchen. There's no additives, nothing to order, just really simple ingredients. So what you're going to need to make these really good fresh milled flour rolls is some water, some milk, a couple eggs, honey, butter, salt, yeast, and of course the fresh milled flour. And that's it. So I'm going to show you how to make them today. They're easy to make and they are oh so good. I'm going to use my Bosch Universal Plus mixer. This mixer is near and dear to my heart. I love this mixer and I use it all the time. This and my Nutrimill Classic Wheat Grinder back there, I've had that for more than 20 years. I love them both. They help me feed my family. Okay, to get started on this recipe, you're going to want 1 cup or 240 grams of lukewarm water. You're going to add that right on into your mixing bowl. After the water, now we want some milk. Now I like to use whole milk, but you can use a lower fat milk, you can use a nut milk. This just enriches your dough, gives you better rolls. So 1 cup or 240 grams of warm milk. I pop this into the microwave for about a minute, or you could just leave it out, let it get to room temperature for a little bit. Next, you want some melted butter. This is 1/3 of a cup or about 5 tablespoons or 113 grams of butter. I just melted this in my cast iron melting pot on the stove top. And this is salted butter, but you can also use unsalted butter. I really just use what's ever on sale. So 1/3 of a cup of melted butter. After the butter, it's time for the honey. This is 1/3 of a cup or 113 grams of honey. You want good, sweet, yummy tasting honey so that your bread tastes good too. I once got into some bitter honey and my bread didn't taste very good. So 1/3 of a cup, just gonna add it right on in here with everything else. After the honey, now it's time for the eggs. I'm using 2 large eggs. Let's put them right on in there with everything else. When you add eggs to your fresh milled flour breads and rolls, it really helps the texture. It gives you a better texture, softer, less crumble, really helps. So be sure to add 2 eggs. Now it's time for the salt. I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons or 12 grams of salt. This is my Redmond's real salt. This is what I use in all of my baking and I really like it. It's an ancient, fine North American sea salt. So I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of this salt. Now the important thing is don't pour it over your mixing bowl in case you over pour your salt. Don't want to do that because then you might have to start over. So definitely pour it over something else, but I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of salt. Okay, after that, now it's time for our fresh milled flour. I'm adding 750 grams of fresh milled flour. This is my hard winter white wheat, but you can also add some kamut or spelt. Those are favorites, but I have thousands of pounds of hard winter white wheat and hard winter red wheat stored in my food storage. So this is mainly what I use, and this is what I really like. So I'm gonna add 750 grams of this fresh milled flour. I got out my Nutrimill wheat grinder. I just milled this up. You want to mill it up right before you use it for the best nutritional value. So this is 750 grams, but after I autolyse, I might add a little bit more. We're going to have to read the dough and just see if it needs a little bit more. That's such an important thing to do, and really day by day it's different. Even for me, when I make this all the time, on a really humid day or a really dry day, I have to add different amounts. So it's going to be different for you, but start with 750 grams and then we can check it once it gets mixing. Now those are all of the ingredients that I'm gonna add so far. I'm gonna autolyse this dough. And if you've never autolyzed, oh, you've got to try it. It is such a great thing to do for your fresh milled flour breads. Basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix up these ingredients just for a minute or two, and then we're gonna let the dough rest. Now you can let it rest during this autolyse period anywhere from 15 minutes to 3 hours. 15 minutes is okay, 3 hours is pretty good. I really just like to do it for about 45 minutes. That's usually what I plan for, but you can definitely make it work into your day. This autolyse is gonna give time for our bran to soften. So we're gonna get better, fluffier, better textured rolls because of it. So I highly suggest doing the autolyse, but it is optional. If you're in a hurry, go on to the next step. But I'm gonna add the yeast after I autolyse. Don't add it before. But also, don't forget to add your yeast after you autolyse, or your rolls will just be flat as pancakes. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this going. I'm gonna turn this on to speed 1, just give this time to mix up, get everything wet, and then I'm gonna let this autolyse. I've let my ingredients mix up just for about a minute. It looks nice and wet. And I'm gonna let this dough autolyse. As it sits here, it's gonna absorb some of the moisture, so you do want it to be a little bit wet as you go into the autolyse period. It's been 45 minutes and my dough has been autolyzing, and now it's time to add the yeast. So I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of this Saf instant yeast. Instant yeast is best to use after you autolyse. It just mixes into your dough better, but I have used active dry yeast and it's been fine too. But if you have Saf instant yeast, use that. So I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of this yeast. I'm just gonna sprinkle it all over the dough. And now it's time to knead our dough. I'm gonna let this dough knead for about 10 to 12 minutes. Now you can take it to windowpane, but if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I hardly ever check for windowpane. I just turn my mixer on, I let it go about 10 to 12 minutes, and I call it good. But if you want to, it is a good indication that your gluten's well developed if you take it to windowpane. But to keep it simple, I let it go about 10 to 12 minutes, and then it's done. So I'm gonna let this start kneading. I'm gonna let this knead on speed 2. And after just a minute or two, I'm gonna check on my ball of dough. I'm expecting to have to add a little bit more flour. So I have about 50 more grams of flour here, and I may add a little bit more. I'll show you exactly what your dough should look like. So my dough looks a little bit wet. You can see that it's sticking to the sides, to the middle. So I'm gonna add about 20 to 25 more grams of this fresh milled flour. After I added that little bit more fresh milled flour, I gave this another minute to mix up, and you can see that it's pulled away from the middle and from the sides, and this looks exactly right. Let me show you exactly what it looks like. It's tacky, but not sticky. I'm gonna be able to shape these into rolls, so that's something that you should look for. Now I'm gonna let this continue kneading. I think it has about 8 more minutes. This is what my dough looks like at the end of kneading. I've let my dough knead for 12 minutes. Now, I told you that I never check for windowpane, but let's just do it just for fun, just in case that helps any of y'all. Let's see. So to check for windowpane, you just pull up on your dough, you just pull it apart really, really gently until you can see light through it. If you can see light through it with it stretching and not breaking, then that's windowpane. And yeah, I have a really good windowpane right here. Hopefully you can see it. But like I said, I never check for it. Now, this kneading will make the biggest difference in your rolls. The kneading really is the most important part, I think, to get that fluffy, good, soft texture and really good fluffy rolls. So if you have a different kind of mixer, then maybe you should check for windowpane, because I know that when I used to use my KitchenAids, I burned up 5 KitchenAids making fresh milled flour before I realized that it was a KitchenAid that was causing the problem. Sometimes you'd have to let those go for 20 or 25 minutes. So your mixer is going to make a big difference. But like I said, I used my Bosch, I let this go for 12 minutes, and I came up with a really good windowpane. Now, If you can't get to window pane, don't worry about it. Sometimes if you can't get to window pane, it's maybe because your dough is a little bit too wet, maybe it's a little bit too dry, but just try to get it as good as you can and then go on to the next step. It's just bread. If it doesn't work out, adjust next time and try again. Okay, now that my dough is kneaded, it's time to let this dough rise. So I'm just gonna cover this up. I'm gonna cover it up with this, but you can also cover it with a warm, wet tea towel. And I'm gonna let this dough rise on my countertop just like this for about an hour. You want it to expand. It doesn't necessarily have to double in size like you always hear, but you want it to expand, and I will show it to you then. And then it'll be time to shape this dough into rolls. I wanted to be sure that you could see the dough really well at the end of kneading. I'll go ahead and do another window pane test just so you can see it closely. So you just stretch it like this. You don't want it to break, but you can see through it right there. See that? That is a good window pane. I've let my dough rise for an hour, and this is what it looks like. You can see it's definitely expanded, it's puffy, it looks exactly right. Now I'm gonna give this dough a quick punch down before I turn it out of this mixing bowl. Oh, it smells really good. Okay, this is a lot of dough, isn't it? Oh, it feels so good. It's a little bit sticky, not sticky, but it is tacky. It's nice, it's not too dry. This dough feels really good, and I know that we're gonna get some really good fresh milled flour rolls out of it. Okay, I'm gonna take my dough cutter and I'm just gonna slice this dough in half. I'm gonna work with half of it at a time. Now this recipe makes 24 rolls. So I'm gonna put my rolls in a 9x13 cast iron baking dish. I love this baking dish. I love using the cast iron because there's none of those chemicals, none of those coatings. It's natural, it's a really healthy way to go. And I'm also gonna use one of my 12-inch cast iron skillets. I love making rolls in these skillets too. They're so pretty. Now, I have both of these really well oiled. I keep my cast iron really well oiled. My bread doesn't stick at all. Now I'm gonna work with half of this dough at a time. Now if you want to, you can get out your kitchen scale and be sure that you have equal amounts of dough, but I don't mind that much. I'm not that particular. So the important thing to do is to press out your dough really well. Press it out, get all those little air bubbles out of it, really press it out well. Now for the 9x13, I'm gonna make 12 rolls. So I'm gonna divide this dough up into 4 equal pieces. And then each of these 4, I'm gonna cut into 3 pieces. That's an easy way for me to do the math. Now that I have this dough all divided into 12 pieces, I'm gonna shape it into a roll. Now there's lots of different ways you can shape your rolls, but what I like to do is I like to grab a piece and just pull it, tuck it into the bottom, pinch it together at the bottom just like this. And then that gives you really good surface tension, gives you a nice smooth top on top of your roll, because you don't want the top of your roll to be all bumpy as you shape it, or they're gonna be bumpy after they're baked. So get a nice smooth top, and I'm just gonna put it into my 9x13. I do 3x4, but you can shape these however you want. You can make them however you want to. They're homemade, so you get to do what you want. But I'm just gonna do this 12 times. I have 12 rolls shaped and in my 9x13 pan. Now it's time to shape them for my 12-inch round cast iron skillet. Now, when I make it in this kind of round skillet, I like to divide up my dough into 16 pieces and then put them in the skillet like that. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna press this out really well. Make sure you press it out. That'll give you better texture to your rolls. Press it out really well, more than you think. And as you divide them up and you start shaping them, they're gonna start puffing up really quickly. Now I have this divided up into 16 pieces, so I'm gonna take a little piece, and just like I did with these, I'm gonna pull it, stretch it, fold it over, make it meet at the bottom, pinch it together, and then I'm gonna put it into my cast iron skillet. And what I like to do is I like to line the outside and then put them in the inside, but I'll show you. Okay, you can see how I've arranged the rolls in my 12-inch cast iron skillet. And these are gonna look so pretty when they're done baking. But you can definitely just use 2 of these or 2 9x13s. Either way will work just fine. Now, some of yours might look prettier than mine. Some of them might not look quite as pretty, but you know what? These are homemade rolls and they don't have to be perfect. So remember that if you're struggling at all. I'm gonna cover these up just to keep them from drying out. You can also use a wet tea towel if you'd like to do that. But I'm just gonna cover those up and I'm gonna let these rise on the countertop just like this for about 45 minutes to an hour. Yours might take a little bit longer, just depending on the temperature of your home. But I'm gonna let these rise, and then it's gonna be time to bake these yummy rolls. My fresh milled flour rolls have been rising on the countertop for about 45 minutes, and I think these look like they're ready to go into the oven. I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees, and I'm gonna let these bake in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. Usually mine are about 20 minutes, and just let them get as golden as you want. Look how good these fresh milled flour rolls look. Don't they look so good? I let these bake at 350 degrees for 22 minutes. These look perfect to me. Now you can let yours go a little bit longer if you want them to get even more brown on top. But these look great and they smell so good. They smell so good. Okay, this is what I like to do after I get my rolls out of the oven. I like to get out my little cast iron melting pot again, and I just melted about half a tablespoon of butter in this melting pot. And I like to just brush the butter all over these rolls. That'll give them that buttery taste, that beautiful shine, and it'll even give you softer rolls. So I like to do this. Now I also have a make-ahead option for these rolls where you par bake them. You can leave them on the countertop for a few days and then finish baking them on the day of a big meal like Thanksgiving. Or you can even throw them in the freezer and just bake them from frozen. So I'll share with you how to do that, hopefully in my next video, so be looking out for that. Okay, look how good these look. Aren't they even prettier with the melted butter on top? They really are. These are gorgeous. Okay, I want you to be able to see these rolls really well, up close. Look what a beautiful color. They have some nice rise. Oh, these look perfect. Now, I can tell that they're nice, they're light, they're fluffy, they don't feel dense at all. Oh, look at the inside. Perfectly baked, not doughy. It's steaming, it's still hot, but look at that. This is exactly what you want from a fresh milled flour roll. It's not dense, it's fluffy, it's yummy. Look at that. This looks absolutely perfect. I'm gonna take a little bite of this piece right here. Delicious. I hope y'all can tell how light and fluffy and absolutely perfect these fresh milled flour yeast rolls turned out. I'm going to leave the printable recipe for these fresh milled flour rolls down in the description and on my website, robinonthefarm.com. While you're there, be sure to check out our handmade beeswax bread bags. This is what I like to store all of my breads in. Each one is handmade right here on our family farm by me and my daughters. They're a great, healthier alternative to plastic bags, and we have lots of fun patterns to choose from. Thanks so much for being here with me on Robin on the Farm. I'll see y'all next time.
Robin's in the kitchen, dough beneath her hands, wheat from the fields and eggs from her land. Sunlight through the window, a warm golden glow. She's working hard to make that dough. With flour on her apron, loving each knead, ground wheat fresh, sowing her seed. The smell of fresh bread rises in the air. Simple life without a care. In Robin's kitchen,